Okay, so we're going to look at graphing and analyzing and writing rational equations this time. We have spent a class period, plus there are other videos now of graphing rational functions. So I went ahead and graphed this first one example for us because we've already done this. Again, we factored our numerator and our denominator. We canceled out a common factor. And so I got a simplified version of x plus 2 over x minus 4. Set my numerator equal to 0 to get my x-intercept. Plugged in 0 to get my y-intercept. Found my vertical asymptote by setting my denominator equal to 0. And then determined my horizontal asymptote by looking at the degrees on my numerator and my denominator. And then I got my whole x-coordinate by looking at the factor, which I canceled out being x minus 1, plugged that 1 into the simplified equation to get my whole y-coordinate, so 1 comma negative 1. I put everything on my graph, sketched it out, and then I determined my domain and my range. So now we're going to be working backwards in this video, where we're going to be given a graph this time, and then we're going to have to go ahead and write an equation for that based off the information. So first off, let's just start in order here. We have our x-intercept here at 2. So I know I get my x-intercept at 2 comma 0. And then my y-intercept, that looks like it's about, right now we can guess that is 0 comma 1 and a third. So that would be 4/3. We'll just keep that one in the back of our head for now, just to double check. All right, now we're going to look at our vertical asymptote. That's going to be at x is equal to -3. And my horizontal asymptote is going to be at y is equal to a -2. Again, I'm getting all of this information here just by looking at my graph. And then lastly, my whole is going to be at -1 comma 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and write the domain and the range. So -infinity, we hit our asymptote before our whole. So -3 union -3 comma -1 union -1 to infinity. And then the range, bottom to top, also hit my asymptote before my whole. -infinity comma -2 union -2 comma 3 union 3 to infinity. Okay, so we determined all that information just by looking at our graph. Now we're going to write the equation. So let's work from the top. My x-intercept, I find that by setting my numerator equal to 0. So the 0 of 2 is going to be x minus 2. So I know on my numerator here, I'm going to have a factor of x minus 2. Then let's skip over y-intercept for now. Let's look for our vertical asymptote. Our vertical asymptote, we set that by setting our denominator equal to 0. So if I have a vertical asymptote at -3, the factor that corresponds to that would be x plus 3. Because if I set that equal to 0, I get -3. Okay, so we get that. Next, we can look at, let's actually not skip over horizontal asymptote for now. Let's do our whole. Our whole, we get that by canceling out a factor in my numerator and my denominator. So I have an x value of -1 for my whole, which means I cancel out a factor of x plus 1 on my numerator and my denominator for this one right here. And so lastly, we're going to look at the horizontal asymptote. And remember, we get that by looking at the degrees. And so if my degree is not 0, or if I don't have a horizontal asymptote, that means I must have had the same degree on the numerator and denominator, because that's a number that's not 0 or doesn't have a horizontal asymptote. So it has to be some sort of ratio. And that means I'll have to have a 2 on the top, or -2 on the top, and 1 on the bottom, because the ratio here of -2 over 1 would give me a horizontal asymptote of negative 2. Now, I can go ahead and plug in 0 for everything here to see if this matches up with my y-intercept, and in theory, it should. So we're just not going to check that. We're good here. So again, once we got to information, we just kind of worked backwards. Again, x-intercept at 2, 0. The factor that corresponds to that in my numerator would be x minus 2, vertical asymptote of negative 3. Set my denominator equal to 0. The factor that corresponds to that would be x plus 3. I have a whole with an x value of negative 1. So I have a factor that corresponds to that would be x plus 1 on the numerator and the denominator. And then if I have a horizontal asymptote of negative 2, that means I know I have to have a ratio of negative 2. So negative 2 on the top and a 1 on the bottom. Everything should work out. Okay? So let's work on the next one here. This one here, I have an x-intercept at 1, 0. Then I have a y-intercept. Well, actually, I don't have a y-intercept, so I can just write none for that. A vertical asymptote at x equals 0. A horizontal asymptote at y equals a negative 3. And then, do I have a hole? I do not have a hole, so I can just write none. So my domain and my range should be a little bit more simple this time. I'm going from negative infinity to my asymptote at 0, union 0 to infinity. And in my range, I'll go from negative infinity to negative 3, union negative 3 to infinity. And now working through my equation here, again, I have an x-intercept at 1, 0. So the factor that would correspond to that would be x minus 1. And then I have a vertical asymptote at 0, and the factor that would cancel, or that would correspond with that, would just be x, because x is equal to 0. So it'd be x minus 1 over x. And then my horizontal asymptote, it's negative 3. So I have to have a ratio of negative 3 here. So I can put a negative 3 over 1. We don't actually have to put the 1, but this is what it would look like. Okay? Moving on to number 4, I do not have an x-intercept this time, so none for that. I also do not have a y-intercept, so none for that as well. My vertical asymptote, that means, is at x equals 0, and my horizontal asymptote is also going to be at 0, but this time y is equal to 0. Now I have a hole at negative 1, 1, and then writing my domain and my range, negative infinity to negative 1, because my hole comes from my asymptote, union negative 1 to 0, union 0 to infinity. And then for my range, negative infinity to my asymptote before my hole this time. So 0, union 0, 1, union 1 to infinity. And then writing my equation here. Again, I have no x-intercept, so I don't have to write a factor on my numerator. My vertical asymptote is at 0, so I can put an x on my denominator. And then I have a hole at x equals negative 1. So the factor that would cancel out on my numerator and my denominator would be an x plus 1. And then if I look at this now, I have an x plus 1 on my numerator and an x times x plus 1 on my denominator. So my higher degree is going to be on my denominator. And if my higher degree is below, then my horizontal asymptote should be y equals 0, which I do have already written down. So everything here should check out and be fine. So we're all good. Okay. Number 5. X-intercept at 1, 0. Y-intercept at, that looks like 0, negative 1/2. Vertical asymptote at x equals 4, and a horizontal asymptote at y equals negative 2. And then a hole at the same point as my y-intercept, which appears to be 0, negative 1/2. Domain for this one, negative infinity to 0, union 0 to 4, union 4 to infinity, and then the range negative infinity to negative 2, union negative 2 to negative 1/2, union negative 1/2 to infinity. And then writing my equation out for this one, again, this time we do have an x-intercept, so we'll start with that. I'll put the factor that corresponds to that, which would be x minus 1 on my numerator. I have a vertical asymptote of x equals 4, so the factor that corresponds to that would be x minus 4 on my denominator. And then I have a whole at 0, so the factor that corresponds to that is just going to be x, so I have to put that on my numerator and my denominator. And then my horizontal asymptote is negative 2, so I'll get that ratio right by putting a negative 2 in the front here. And I believe, yep, number 6 is the last one. So number 6, same idea, x-intercept at 4, 0, y-intercept, well, we can't see it, so we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to write, I don't know, vertical asymptote at x is equal to 1, horizontal asymptote at y is equal to 3, and our whole, that looks like it's about negative 1, 7.5. I'm not even going to bother writing a fraction for that one. Okay, my domain, I hit my whole before I hit my asymptote, so negative 1, union negative 1 to positive 1, union 1 to infinity, and then my range, negative infinity to 3, union 3 to 7.5, union 7.5 to infinity. All right. And then lastly, we write our final equation here. So I go with a factor of x minus 4 on my numerator because of the fact that I have an x-intercept at 4, 0. I have a vertical asymptote at 1, so I'll have a factor of x minus 1 on my denominator. I have a whole at an x value of negative 1, so I'll have a factor of x plus 1 on my numerator and my denominator. And then I do have a horizontal asymptote of 3, so I can just stick a 3 up front here. I hope this video helped with you finding this information and that you have these pages done in your packet.